Hello guys, Abel here, back with another video. Can you believe it? I am still here. You thought that I disappeared again, didn't you? Forgot to say, I don't know if you can see it, if you can see something, but you're not sure if you're seeing it right. Yes, I have a bloody eye. Not too sure how it happened, but I think I just managed to somehow burst a blood vessel in my eye. It looks pretty ugly, although to be honest, I'm sort of growing fond of it. I'm going into a store or going to the gym or something, and someone is always going to ask about it. I can make up some cool story as to how it happened. Of course, afterwards, I'm always telling them that I was just kidding, but I love seeing the reactions. Anyways, in today's video, I actually have something pretty cool to tell you about or to talk about. I had something a lot cooler in mind originally, but it's just such a huge project to complete that I just keep giving up on it. Honestly, that video idea has been in the back of my mind for months. It's not the only one that I sort of gave up on because it was just overwhelming. For example, there is this movie that I'm sort of dreaming of making one day, and the end of the movie is actually someone knocking out my father-in-law and him falling into a pool and my cat pissing on him and us laughing at him from the balcony. It's actually a lot cooler than what it sounds like now. Regardless, I think today's video is going to have a cool topic as well, because I will be showing my strength progress over time and how that is correlating with my size progress. Because as you can see probably on the thumbnail already, I have put on a significant amount of size over time. And, I'm one of those people who's always talking about how important it is to monitor your strength gains, and how, even though it's not a perfect metric, it's sort of still the best metric to rely on if you want to monitor your muscle building progress. And so I have chosen the starting point to be the summer of 2017. And that is actually a really good starting point, because that is a point where I am significantly smaller than what I am now. But it's also a point where I have already been doing many of the exercises, almost all of them actually, that I'm doing today. So I have a very good reference point to compare with. So it's not the case that it's just not a fair comparison, because back then I would have been fresh on those movements. So I was still just learning my ways on them, whereas now I'm this very well-versed person on those movements. So it's a really good comparison. And I would say that between these two pictures, you're seeing a very solid, at least 10, but more so maybe 12 pounds of muscle difference. Of course, it's not going to be a general rule of thumb from now on. So let's say I'm 20% stronger now on average. It's not going to be the case that, okay, so if you want to put on 12 pounds of muscle, just get 20% stronger. Of course, it's not the case. Also, training age matters. So if a ranked beginner puts on 20% strength, then it's going to result in something very different compared to a much more experienced lifter putting on 20% strength. I would say that at that time, at my starting point, I would have been training for, well, since the start of my formal lifting journey in gyms, it would have been, I think, 4 years. Now, one of those years was lost basically almost completely because of injury, or at least a big chunk of the progress that I could have made in that year was lost. As far as the after picture or after pictures, not really sure which pictures I will be selecting, but they would have been taken between the summer of 2021 and 2023. So somewhere in that range. I'm not going to be showing pictures from my very current form because I'm not at my very best. But, I could be. I'm not quite as lean and probably not quite as muscular. Well, certainly not as muscular in my lower body, which is a bit of a long and kind of funny story. But as far as aesthetics, it would kind of just sell me a little bit short if I was including pictures from my very recent form. Oh, almost glossed over the most important thing, excuse me, body weight. At the time, I was right around 80 kilograms. So whether I was 80 or 78 or 82, it was just a matter of when my last meal was the day before and how much salt I was consuming in my diet and things like that. I do know that I had days where I was even over 82 kilos, and those would have been the days where I would have been very proud that, oh man, look how lean I am, and 82 kilos. I mean, that's really not bad at 6 foot. And then I would also have days where I would be out till late. Let's say I would have some drinks, which would also dehydrate me. It was very warm. Summers here can be absolutely insane. And I would get home, my stomach would be very empty. I would step on the scale, and I'm pretty sure that one time I even saw 77 point something. That was not my true weight, not really reflective of where I was hanging out day to day, just as the same way as 82 kilos was not reflective. So 80 kilos, I think, is a fair place to call it. And then on the after pictures, you're all seeing around the mid 80s. So, like similarly to the before picture, I would have the odd day where I would be up at like 87. A very proud moment to say like, dude, look at me, I'm 87 kilos. But then I would also have the odd days where I would be like under 82, or maybe not under 82, but approaching 82. So my true weight would have been more so around like the 85-ish mark. So I would say that my true weight would have been something like 84 kilos, maybe 85 if we are being generous. So anyways, man, I'm rusty as hell. So I always make a lot of mistakes while recording. I need to repeat some sentences and whatever because my tongue just gets twisted up. But the amount that I'm making here, so what do you guess? How long has this video been going on, or the recording have been going on? Because I'm pretty sure that in the video we will be at the 6-minute mark or something like that. It's been 24 minutes. We just passed the 24-minute mark. So congratulations, Abel. Okay, so let's get into it. And I broke things down by body part. And some of these exercises you might have quote unquote access to. So, chin-ups, everybody has access to, I guess. But even some of these machines you might have in your gym or gyms. Because they're actually pretty common. So one of them I mentioned a bunch of times. This is a Techno Gym chest press machine, this beautiful yellow thing, although sometimes it's actually black. As I said it many times, I always put this ab crunch mat behind my back. So that is how I've been doing these for a long time. So based on the performances that I found, I would say that we can average it out to be around 100 kilos for 8 reps. I found performances like 95 kilos for 10 reps, 97.5 for 9. For some reason, I didn't go higher than 100 at this period, but that is about what I remembered as well, that it was right around 100 kilos and around 8 reps. That is actually a very solid performance that I can tip my hat to for my past self. It's not surprising because my chest was always my best and strongest upper body muscle. And actually, I would say that someone's performance on this machine with the extended range of motion is actually very comparable to what it would be on a barbell bench press. So just for some frame of reference. So that's why I'm saying 100 kilos for 8 at that time is actually very, very solid. And my best ever performance is actually higher than what I remembered going through my log, 125 kilos for 10. I did know that it was around 120, and I wasn't sure if it was 10 or 8. 125 for 10 is actually pretty nuts. So I did tell this a few times on this channel that I actually stopped increasing the weight on that because I legit just was scared that I'm going to tear my pec because I was getting really, really strong. And honestly, there was no sign of me plateauing in strength. So I was always really good at these horizontal presses. Back then, like in my, I want to say beginner years, I hit 100 kilos for 4 relatively early on, whereas on all the other exercises, I was progressing much, much slower. So that's just how it was on this one. So let's move on to delts. I would say the performance that I found here is once again a little bit after the starting point. So maybe we want to subtract a rep or 2, but it's going to be pretty similar. 24 kilos for a set of 8, which is, no, but I also found a 25 for 8. Let's call it 25 for 8. Let's subtract a rep or 2 because this data is a bit later than our starting point. So it would have been something like 25 for 6. And then currently, very happy to brag about this. It was 35 kilos for a set of 5. That's my recent best performance now. It's actually a lot more impressive than it seems at first because so I'm not doing overhead presses like this with the dumbbells, like going down to the point where like my upper arm would close a 90-degree angle with my torso. I'm actually going like, it's almost like an overhead press fly that I'm doing with those dumbbells. So I'm going down all the way like here. My upper arm is almost touching my torso. So 35 for a set of 5. It's pretty tough to load incrementally because the dumbbells, of course, jump up by quite hefty amounts. So I'm using these wrist and ankle weights that I can strap onto my wrist, and that's how I'm trying to progressively overload it. I would absolutely love to go up to 40 kilos for a set of 5 or 6, and that's sort of what I am working on. But it's going to take a while. Even though like 10 kilos might not seem like much over, 7 years, that is actually a 40% difference. I mean, if you went from benching 100 kilos for a set of 5 or 6 versus 140 kilos for the same amount of reps, I mean, I think you would be quite happy with that. So this is a pretty huge difference. There's a lateral raise machine in this gym, which I had been using even back then. And let's look at the difference. So most of the performance data that I found is things like 35 for 10, 30 for 12, things like that. I found one which was 50 for 5. So 50 was the heaviest weight that I selected. My best ever on that one is 60 for 15. Now, 60 is the full stack. And I'm not even really looking to progress it anymore because, again, I would just have to do more and more and more reps. So I'm basically just repping out, feeling the muscle. I'm just getting a good delt pump, especially if I'm rocking a tank top in the gym. I'm trying to get those delts pumped as fast as possible so that I can have all the jaws dropped in the gym. That was a joke. Okay, for the quote-unquote back, so now we will be looking at pulling exercises. Chin-ups, 20 kilos for a set of 5. That would have been my best at the time. Later, I also did 15 kilos for a set of 8 and remember that one as well fairly vividly. I'm pretty sure that I even posted a story of that or something. These days, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to brag about it here as well, 47 kilos for a set of 5. I'm shooting for that 50 value, and when that happens, I'm throwing the Abel 50 party, although maybe not, because here the tradition is that if you're throwing a party, you're paying for everything basically. So no party, but I will be bragging for you guys. Now there is this Techno Gym pull down machine. Once again, some of you may have access to this. 100 kilos for 8, thereabouts, was my performance at the time. So again, I found performances like 105 for 6, and then 97.5 for 9, and things like that. So let's just call it 100 for 8. That's a pretty fair place to call it. These days, my performance hovers right around 160 for 8 reps. That's on average where I'm at. There you go. Best ever performance, 160 for 12. This 12 is definitely an outlier because I don't know, no way you can see it from here, but it's basically like these little peaks and then like a giant penis in the middle of it. This one performance just stands out. I got really freaking monstrously strong on this and the chest supported rows. And this is by far the biggest increase that I experienced out of any of the lifts. So I got stronger on everything, but I mean here, we're looking at a 60% increase in strength. Now I did focus a lot on my back in recent years, but still, even with that, I guess these machines just really fit me well, and I really learned to push myself crazy hard, and also learned to use some of these muscles better, which maybe earlier I was not using so well. So I think, for example, that on chin-ups, as well as any kind of narrower pull, and also on rows, depending on how you do them, by learning to use your lats more, it will be one of those instances where the mind-muscle connection focus is not going to take away from your performance, but it's going to add to it. Because if you can engage the lats, which are a very strong muscle, and you can stretch them out a lot, you're going to be able to pull more than making it very upper back dominant, which your upper back is strong, but not as strong as, these lats also joining them and producing a lot of force. I do think that some of these things help me, but look at any lifter and you will see these little outlier things that are just really standing out. Chest supported rows, a very similar story. So 100 kilos for 8 on average at the time, and now 160 for 8 on average. So these are pretty huge increases. Now let's look at the arms, which is going to be interesting. So Bayesian curl, sorry that I'm calling it Bayesian curls. I know it's not Menno's invention per se, but I came across this lift from him many, many years ago. So I'm just going to be calling it Bayesian curl. At the time, 10 kilos for 12. So, or at least that Techno Gym stack, it was the 10 kilo mark, 12 reps. And these days, my standard is right around 10 reps with 17.5. I played around with going up to 20, and maybe I could do even 8 on some outlier day, but usually it's more like 6. So I did get stronger. Just like with the lats, I actually feel like that I learned to use my arms much better and my biceps much better, and also put some size on, not a ton, but at least a good 2, maybe, I mean, compared to 2017, it might even be like 3 centimeters. Then there are these, so this one is actually a bit after 2017, might even be like a year after, but these foam roller cable curls, foam roller preacher curls, I call them SSD curls just because why not? At the time, my best would have been 15 for a set of 8. And now it's 26 for a set of 6. So that would be the stack and some extra implements to load it a little bit. Probably I put a little dumbbell there or something. I actually just tested my performance on it now before recording, and it's still pretty much right there. So 26 kilos for 6. That's almost exactly what I did. I even tested it once again with a resistance meter. So let's look at triceps, because that's what I was looking for. So skull overs, which is like the lying tricep extension as demonstrated by Mark Rippeto in a video, is actually very similar. Basically, the only difference is that the bar is traveling behind your head. You're not letting the bar down to your forehead. And so it makes it a lot elbow friendlier, because the highest resistance is not coming at like peak torque on your elbows. So I'm seeing things like 32.5 for 12 and 30 for 15, 35 for 5, 32.5 for 9. I'm seeing things like this. Best ever performance on that since then is 50 for 12, so 50 kilos for 12, which is pretty good. This is actually a movement which I always enjoyed a lot and was always, I feel like I was pretty good at it. I do remember that in 2019 I was doing 40 kilos for a set of like 12 to 15. So, since then I got stronger still. I think that with 60 kilos I did 5 or 6 reps, like once or twice, but I don't like going that heavy because sort of just the setup becomes really awkward. Cable push down, I just found this in my old log. So I am seeing 18 for 22 reps and then 22.5 for 14 reps. These days I can, like my standard would be between the 35 and 42.5 kilo mark. Yeah, 35 for 10, 35 for 12. I'm seeing things like this. The thing is that on push downs, if you're in the flow of things and you're really looking to progress it, it becomes a little bit hard to judge your performance very objectively, because like if you're adding in a little bit of shoulder movement, then it immediately increases your performance somewhat. I like to stay around the 35 weight limit, generally speaking, because it's just a lot better for my elbows to do so. Okay, and then how about we actually look at the lower body a little bit? This is going to be very quick. RDLs at the time, 120 for 5, which pretty sure that this was like slightly after. Yeah, it was slightly after, yeah, and I just remembered why, because I was doing these very wide grip RDLs. Börge Fagerli was my coach at the time, so he was putting together my program. And I was doing these wide grip RDLs as per his instructions. Eventually switched over to more regular RDLs. It would have been 120 for 5, at which point I actually got stuck for a long, long time, in large part, I would say, because I was just scared of going higher. And these days, actually, like this would have been, like a year and a half ago, it was 165 for 11. So that's my best ever performance on RDLs. I think that for lower reps, it was 170 for 6. 165 for 11 is definitely a higher performance output than 170 for 6, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm not really sure, to be honest, if I want to go heavier than that. I know it's a bad mindset, but I feel like this is strong enough and I just don't want to mess up my back. Hamstring curls, so 35 for 10. That's kind of the average performance that I found from that time. It's a standing leg curl, actually, not a lying leg curl. I like this machine actually because you can change your body angle in a way to make the exercise fit you more. So 35 for 10 and 50 for 9 reps is the best that I found. And quads, so this is going to be very funny, but just I had to look at the overlap, so I cannot compare exercises that I didn't do at one period or the other. Like at the time I was doing these reverse lunges. I had not been doing reverse lunges for a very long time. When I had my most impressive performances on things like leg presses and whatever, or Smith machine squats, I was not doing those lifts back then. I had been doing, well, I will not say what I have been doing recently for quads, but leg extensions I have been doing at least in the reasonably recent past. I want to say unilateral leg extensions. So these were done with one leg. So at the time, 50 for 6, that would have been my best performance or highest output. I was not doing low reps a lot on leg extensions, but sometimes I would be just tempted. Whenever I can get away with it, I like to do low reps a lot more than high reps. So most of the time I would be doing like 30, 35, I would be working with these weights. I'm going to be pulling up my log real quickly once again. 35 for 12, 35 for 6. I don't know what happened there. 30 for 10, 30 for 12, 30 for 15. So yeah, these kinds of performances were most typical. Best ever performance with one leg extensions was 60 for 11, which, look at that. And yeah, so that is going to be it for quads. And so if you look at the percentage increase across most of the lifts, it will typically be between like 25-ish% up until 40%. There are those two outlier lifts, which is the chest supported row and that pull down machine. On those, it's actually a 60% increase. That's not normal. Those are outliers, but typically it's around in this 25 to 40%. So let's just call it like a 30% increase on average. And I would say that that's pretty indicative of where I also feel like I have gotten, not so much in terms of my physique, because, is my physique 30% better? I mean, you cannot really judge that like this. But if you think of an intermediate lifter and the weights that you associate with them, so, like benching around 100 kilos, squatting around, well, I don't know, maybe 140, something like that, versus an elite lifter, maybe squatting more like 200 kilos and benching 3 plates perhaps, you will be looking at percentage increases like that. Although now I have no idea what 200 is relative to 140. Yeah, that's a 42% increase actually, which is a bit bigger than 30%, but it's in that ballpark at least. So it also shows you that, okay, like going from intermediate to like advanced or highly advanced, it actually does show up on one's physique. It's not like I became like a different person. Like you still see the same structural elements on both physiques, but it is bigger, it is more aesthetic, and it definitely looks a lot more jacked. Like I would say the feedback that I'm getting on my physique is also indicative of that. So I do remember on that summer, for example, unless I told people that I'm working out, they wouldn't know. Whereas like if we went to a beach or something, then they would be like, oh, you work out. Then it was obvious. These days, people will know that I work out, even if I'm fairly covered up. I mean, okay, in a winter jacket, they will not know, but if it's a hoodie and it's not the baggiest hoodie ever, they will know. That's, I would say, once again, the difference that we're looking at. I'm sure there are instances where it's not going to be noticeable, even at the advanced level. And certainly if you get like contest lean, then it's pretty much never going to be noticeable that you're lifting if you're covered up. Yeah, I would say that as an advanced lifter, like you will be putting on enough muscle to where at a reasonably lean body fat percentage, you will look like someone who lifts. Now, at like 9-10%, I will look fit and pretty athletic if I'm wearing a t-shirt, but like they would definitely have no idea that I look like the way I do underneath. So I even had a class reunion like 2 years ago. I went to that, and so I don't know. It could be that they noticed that we didn't talk about it. Maybe I'm gonna actually ask some of them, like by the way, like did you know what you're looking at? Like, did you have any idea? And my camera just died in this moment. You know what? I'm just going to keep talking while I'm in the flow of things. So yeah, I went to this class reunion. I don't know how much people noticed or didn't notice. I'm guessing that if they did notice something crazy, then they would have made at least one remark, which they didn't. So I'm going to ask them if they actually noticed it, that I'm pretty muscular. And I would say that you don't even want to be as lean year round as I was on these pictures. I'm not that lean myself. You're hanging out at a lean, athletic, but more maintainable body fat percentage year round, then I would say that it will be noticeable. Like now I'm definitely higher in body fat than I was on these pictures. I mean, quite a bit higher. And if I'm wearing a t-shirt, people do remark on it. Like if I'm meeting a person that's new and is not used to seeing me, they will mention, oh, you work out, I see, at some point in the first hour, probably. That's just for some encouragement. And once again, just as a reminder that strength gains do correlate with muscle growth. We did not need to see my case study for that, but it's once again like yet another data point to kind of confirm this notion. And I feel like this is something that I should be talking about because I'm still a big fan of looking at your strength increases in the gym and actually prioritizing that, even if your only goal is hypertrophy. So because strength gains are the closest correlate that we can look at in the short term to see whether we are going in the right direction, I think that should be something that is very highly prioritized. Of course, can you take that too far and actually turn your routine into something that is now not actually getting you closer to your goals for muscle growth, or at least is slowing you down compared to what you could be achieving? Yeah, of course. Any good message can be bastardized and turned into something stupid, just like the opposite viewpoint can be bastardized as well. So I do think that you can not focus nearly as much as I do on strength gains, and you can be still doing well. So I do think that you could be looking at other metrics like even the pump and things like that, which I'm not a fan of. But yeah, I do think that you can make a good progress in the gym without looking nearly as much as I do at strength gains. And you can caricature that viewpoint in a way so that it's definitely not going to be productive. So if we are not being fair to one idea or the other, anything can be made look stupid. But as long as we are not stupid about it, I do think that looking at your strength gains, and so long as your training is well set up for hypertrophy with the volume that you have in your program, the exercises that you're picking, mainly looking at your strength gains and just focusing on getting as strong as you possibly can, is actually maybe the most straightforward way to be getting as big as you can. That's pretty much all I wanted to say in this video. I hope that this was informative and interesting, maybe even encouraging. Let me know what you thought. If you have questions, concerns, comments, curses, anything like that, please drop it in the comment section. I got a lot of emails, which is actually awesome, and I feel honored. I will respond to each and every one of you. Not each and every one of you will, of course, be able to get that free consult because there is only so much time in the world that I can dedicate to this. But I have done more than 5 already, and I will do a few more still because I actually enjoy doing them, and it gives a lot to me as well that I get to do these. And to those of you who have already hopped on these calls with me, I hope you found it valuable. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Otherwise, for anything else like coaching and eventually the paid consultations, please check out the link or my website in the show description or video description, and I will see you in the next video.